You can call it what you want, but I know what it is. I see the hellfire and the devil in the wig. Demon with a gavel, a goat in the closet. Body bag, zip, zip, zip. Probably why, zip, zip, zip. It's the world spin. Head spinning, wondering how I became his. Ha, world mine, but it's stolen property now. Being passed down, can a nigga sue? Ha.
White supremacy is wild to me for a few reasons. First of all, I feel like every white supremacist I've ever seen is pretty much the least supreme looking motherfucker. Like, I've never seen an avowed white supremacist and thought to myself, behold, the pinnacle of man. Like it's not a bunch of Hemsworths walking around with swastika tattoos, you know? It's not. Your average white supremacist walks in looking like Busted Magazine's fuck up of the year, 2005. Walks in with a tattoo on his neck of a skull that's got more teeth than he does.
While I appreciate all the white activists and all your work fighting ICE and fighting Trump and fighting this white supremacist regime, too often you guys lose sight of what the fuck the problem is. The problem is our white supremacist culture, white people. We are in this mess because the white man and the white woman love white supremacy. That's the only reason that we are all suffering.
I'm listening.
That's why our liberties are going. That's why innocent people are dying in the street, including white people. It's because of the white man's fucked up love of white supremacy. And that is the message that not enough white activists talk about. Go to the fucking root. What is the fucking root of the problem?
Exactly.
White people and their white supremacist bullshit. That's how we got in this fucking mess.
Exactly.
Call it what it is.
Please.
White supremacy and white people.
Yes.
That is why we're under a white supremacist regime. White people are too goddamn racist.
Oh, he went there.
And if they're not perpetrating racism, they're fucking denying it or being silent about it. Apathy. Gaslighting. All fucking day, every goddamn day.
Damn! Dee Stutter, where have you been all my life? Speak on it.
Call it what it is. Until white people fix their fucking bullshit, their racist asses, more people are gonna die. This country's falling apart. You know why we're falling apart?
Tell them.
Because of white people's racism. That old colonial mindset, hierarchy, racial hierarchy. That's why we will never survive as a nation. That's why we're on the verge of World War III, folks. Exactly. That's why our whole goddamn country's falling apart. Fix white people, and we'll fix our fucking country.
Bro!
I second that emotion.
Look at how white supremacy has destroyed the grand majority of white people. Most white people can't afford to buy a home now. They're struggling to pay the bills. The amount of white people on welfare increases every year. They're suffering, and that's because they allowed themselves to be conned into subscribing to a hyper-capitalistic economic structure because they were being blinded by this idea of white supremacy. They were told that we shouldn't put things in place to make sure that all Americans are able to take care of themselves. That let's spread the wealth. Let's not allow billionaires to stockpile over 50% of the wealth in this country. I mean, they have more than 50% of the wealth, but I think like it's something crazy. But conservatives, these white supremacists, they were convinced that, unregulated free market, with very little restrictions and no social programs in place to make sure that everybody can eat and live in a way where they feel like they can respect themselves. They were told that, that's just black people that want to leech off the system, even though black people have always made up a small minority of the population. And so in their hatred of black people via white supremacy, they con themselves out of programs that would make it easier for them to afford a home, make it easier for them to send their children to college, make it easier for them to put food on the
This shit has been around forever. White people have been afraid about being the minority and being replaced forever. Like I remember like a decade ago, I was on a college campus. I saw a sign that said diversity equals white genocide. Maybe. Maybe. But whose fault is that exactly, right? I didn't make up the definition of white. People of color didn't make it up. White people a long time ago made it up. They said if you're anything other than white, you're not allowed to be white. Well, you made our DNA your kryptonite. And now, we might have to fuck you out of existence. Look, I don't support genocide. I want you to know that. I don't support genocide, but you have to admit, that's the sexiest genocide you've ever heard of. I'm gonna fuck you until meatloaf gets considered an ethnic food.
Here on the sleeve, too, Actively Black. Man, what are you mad about now? I'm familiar with Actively Black. It's a black-owned sports brand, activewear, started by Lanny Smith. Yeah, but don't piss you off. Why would it piss me off? What if we had Actively White gear? We've had it. Man, what? Look, never mind. What's the point of your little tirade here? My point is I'm so sick and tired of black. This is Black History Month. Why don't we have a White History Month? I agree with you. Wait, what? I agree. Let's have a White History Month. In fact, let's start right now. Okay. We'll call it the overview. All right. Okay, in order to talk about white history, we need to go back to where the white race began, 1676. You see, prior to this, white had been used as a descriptor of people, but never had been an official race. But after we colonized America and stole land from the indigenous people, the Europeans here had a problem. The poor people kept having rebellions against the rich people. So what they decided was to create the white race. This was a way to convince people that you were part of something bigger than yourself and that the rich people weren't your enemy, but those other people were. Now, who was allowed to be white? That changed over the years. You see, for the next century and a half, chattel slavery was based primarily around race, and it started from the transatlantic slave trade. And throughout the 17th and 18th century, even into the 19th century, certain people that came over that we identify as white now were not identified as white then. For example, the Italians or the Irish initially were not considered white, but because white is a completely made-up race, they later decided Italian and Irish people are white. This idea is called white supremacy, where we create this mythology of a race that's superior than other races. Like, hey, poor white man, you might not be rich, but at least you're not an enslaved black man. In 1860, the idea of abolishing slavery was becoming more popular, and white people didn't like that. Abraham Lincoln, who was an abolitionist himself, became president, and the southern states here in America seceded from the Union. You've heard the story. It's called the Civil War. Now, after the Civil War ended in 1865, white people didn't just give up their white supremacy. No, they then began a series of things called Jim Crow laws. These laws were intended to target black people. Black people were found to be criminals for anything, and they held public lynchings during the Jim Crow period. That continued until 1954, when the Supreme Court ruled in Brown versus Board of Education desegregated schooling. Of course, white people were not happy about that. There's lots of videos and photographs of it. And then in 1964, the Civil Rights Act was passed, which was supposed to provide equality across the races. Of course, white people were pissed about that. Now wait a minute. You're only talking about the bad things that white people did. What about the good things? Now slow down there, Cletus. I haven't talked about all the bad things yet. This is just the overview. We haven't even got the gentrification, redlining, legacy admissions, the war on drugs, the FBI infiltration of black liberation movements. The white race has a very long history of oppressing and marginalizing black and brown. Man, look at this. Look at this. Actively Black.
Your books.
Sir, my message is simple. Niggers, Jews, homosexuals, Mexicans, Arabs, and all kinds of different chanks stink, and I hate it.
I noticed you referred to African Americans. What exactly is your problem?
How much time you got, buddy? Where would I start? Well, first of all, they're lazy, good-for-nothing tricksters, crack-smoking swindlers, big butt-having, wide-nose breathing all the white man's air. They eat up all the chicken. They think they're the best dancers, and they stink. Did I mention that before?
Yes, I believe you did, sir.
Today I want to talk about something that I believe that we've been calling the thing, a wrong thing, for a very long time. For decades, we've used the phrase white supremacy. But I want to challenge that language, because supremacy suggests someone is actually superior. And when you really look at the behavior throughout history, that is not what we are seeing. What we're seeing looks more like narcissism. And narcissism isn't just a personality flaw. It's a recognized mental disorder characterized by an inflated sense of self-importance, a constant need for dominance, and a lack of empathy for others. Sound familiar? Because when you look at America, a lot of things start to make sense. The need to dominate other races, the rewriting of history, the refusal to acknowledge harm, the belief that one group's comfort matters more than another group's humanity. That is not superiority. That's narcissism. And narcissism always needs a target. Historically, that target has been black people. Our labor was exploited, our land was taken, our communities were destroyed, our history was erased. And every time we demanded equality, the response looked exactly like what you see in narcissistic behavior. Denial, gaslighting, deflection, blame shifting. Because narcissism cannot tolerate accountability. The real issue was never black inferiority. The real issue was white fragility. It was a deep insecurity, a fear that equality would expose the real truth. That the people claiming superiority were just mediocre, not great. And systems built on that kind of insecurity always have to prove themselves through domination, through control, through rewriting the rules whenever equality threatens their position. But here's the part that they never expected. Black people, we survived it. We survived slavery and Jim Crow and redlining and mass incarceration and all the other things that they continued to throw our way. And not only that, we created culture, innovation, wealth, art, and influence that shapes the entire world. So the lesson for us is not bitterness. The lesson is strategy. We continue to educate ourselves. We continue to build wealth. We continue to own land and businesses. And we've got to continue to teach our history because the greatest form of resistance has always been black excellence and black progress. And if history taught us anything, it's this. When we stay informed, when we stay united, and we stay economically empowered, there is no system strong enough to stop our rise. Now drop a black fist in the comments and share this with someone who needs to hear this Black History.
It's a crazy place to be a white supremacist. In the United States of America, the most ethnically and culturally diverse society in human history. And these dudes are on the news like, this is a white country. Like, no, it's not, dog. Turns out every large city in the United States has a China inside of it. You should probably leave your road.
There's no one, you know why? Because white supremacists, they're generally very confident people. Too confident, I would say. Like, there's no white supremacist out there who's like, I just kind of feel like whites are the master race. It's stupid. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have brought it up. I'm such an idiot. It's like I'm a different race.
The problem that we have in white America is that most white people, when they hear about white racism, most white people say, man, that's not me. I never discriminated against anybody. Never did. In their sense of what discrimination means or what racism is, they may be right. But they sit residing in a system from which they take full benefit, a system that defines them in and defines black people out. We are going to have to face the fact that we are not a community. A community is where a lot of people develop mutually beneficial relationships with each other. And our racist institutions and the political boundaries of our cities define black people out of the community. White people will sit in their suburban homes and watch their television programs and hear about all of these laws that are being passed. Many of them are beginning to wonder, what is it with those colored people down there? Why are they so upset? All this wonderful stuff that we're doing for them. But we aren't focusing on the black man living on the block. He lives in a two-flat on that block. And he knows what the circumstance on that block was 10 years ago. And he knows what it is today. And he, too, has heard about all of those programs and laws being passed. But the hard fact of the matter is that things are not changing for him. It's no wonder that the white population and the black population are pitted against each other when the black man knows that the change is not coming and the white man thinks that major efforts are being undertaken when they are not. So I don't think anybody should be surprised when one sees black people in an open attack on the system, because I suspect that they don't see that there is any other realistic alternative.
My name is James. I'm biracial. My dad's black and my mom's regular. And that I grew up in. What's up?
What the fuck does that mean? What's regular?
It means you. Like, exactly you. Give it up for my mom, everybody. She's... All right, let me put it differently. My mom's white and my dad's urban. Does that make more sense?
Austerity that they do fight for the life of our nation! Lord! For the liberty of our people!
What exactly are white people superior at?
They're real good at violence.
Violence. Genocide. It's like stealing people's lives just because they feel like it.
If you are white and you know this is happening and you say nothing, then you're a killer too.
What exactly are white people superior at?
Insecurity, pretending, fear,
being fearful of nothing,
being ignorant,
blame,
letting their egos control their every move, superior at being dicks.
What exactly are white people superior at?
Oppression, gaslighting,
lack of empathy,
intellectualizing oppression.
Did I say oppression? What exactly are white people superior at?
Taking what's not there, taking shit,
taking our ideas,
copycatting,
gentrification,
appropriating things that do not belong to them,
taking over other people's cultures and making you believe that they invented it.
Maybe they're thinking of it as repurposing. It's like recycle and repurpose.
As my grandma would say, the white folk, they'll take it if you don't copyright it.
They are very good at destruction of land, destruction of people, destruction of humanness.
Republican, whether you're Democrat, whether you're conservative, like white people are really good at upholding white supremacy.
How about claiming that, they are actually a whole separate race, when actually white DNA comes from the black female?
So what exactly are white people superior at?
Honey, lying, stealing, and cheating. Manipulation.
withholding information,
Lying.
Telling lies.
I would just consider myself white American.
It's just the norm. To be white is the good thing.
It's the default race.
You kind of get this feeling as you grow up that things belong to you.
I won't have to deal with prejudice that someone who's Asian, someone who's black, someone who's Spanish should have to deal with. That's my privilege as a white person. But it's true.
So white supremacy was created by us to describe something we're confused about.
So you're saying black folks created that name white supremacy?
That's correct. From Africa. From Africa. Because we are just amazed by the things they've done. Well, we describe them always by inventions. When you take a toy and the toy is talking and it's moving, we're like, oh my God. Because yes, my people are not sophisticated.
Why would we call a white person a white supremacist if, well, I think it's because we were enslaved.
No, not. It is just observing the mere industrialization of their environment, which we haven't done. That's all. They can command water from far away through tubes into their bedrooms. We can even fetch a bucket of water from the next lake, you will be drowned. They can put electricity. We never had one in Africa. They have airplanes fly over us. It's amazing. Everything they've done is the reason my people say these people are superior, not because of slavery. They came to colonize us and they brought things we have never seen before. They gave a king a mirror and he was dancing and sold his people away. They brought guns we have never seen, boom, and killed somebody right away. You know what they used to do in the Congo? They put dynamite in the rocks and then they hide the switch. And then when they point their fingers, go boom. And the Congolese till today, they call the white man kiboom, the sound of the dynamite. And then they go down and they go like this. If they're not superior, why do you see every picture when the white men arrive in Africa, we're bowing to them? The Portuguese in my own town, Gele, ordered these people. As soon as the Portuguese showed up, everybody was bowing. We have never seen a gun kill a human being. We have never seen a mirror. We have never seen a radio tune in and somebody speaking from England, the Queen's voice. So for us, all these things, this form must be really superior and close to God. They used to have a joke in Ghana that when God said, let's pray, the white man opened his eyes. The black people were covering his eyes. So the white men saw how God created the world. That's why they are so good at what they do. And I'm telling you, these are folklores from which we grew up. If anyone told you that white people came to Africa to tell us they're superior. It's a lie. They never said that.
What is the country in the world that advocates white supremacy the most? You would never imagine that black people would be deprived of their citizenship rights on this land. The first country in the world that excludes black people the most is Israel, where black refugees are seen as a national security threat. So what is the country in the world that advocates white supremacy the most? Fifth place, Hungary, where media and politicians depict Muslims and non-white immigrants as a civilizational threat, with white supremacy and Christian nationalism becoming mainstream political narratives. The fourth place goes to Britain, which historically imposed white civilization and institutions on colonies through colonial wars and divide and conquer. Contemporary Muslims, black people, and South Asians have significant differences in employment, housing, and police interception. The third place goes to Australia, where the historical White Australia policy restricted non-white immigration. Although it is nominally diverse in contemporary times, the immigration scoring system and visa policies still favor European and American white people. Extreme white supremacy organizations and anti-immigrant demonstrations are active. In second place, in the United States, white supremacist organizations are active. Hate crimes and mass shootings are frequent, and political polarization has led to extreme narratives such as white replacement theory entering mainstream discourse. Before announcing the first place, in the comments section, write down what you think is the country in the world that advocates white supremacy the most. The country ranked first has historically been a benchmark for global white supremacy, with racial segregation written into its constitution and legal system until the core law was abolished in 1991. This country is South Africa.
I grew up smart. I never really believed in the whole white supremacy thing. The moment somebody told me that white people need sunscreen to be outside, I was like, oh shit, they can't be better than us. You need ointment to be outside. And if you don't wear it, what happens? Your skin starts boiling. Come on, what kind of shit is that? It's almost like God doesn't want to see your face. You know what I mean? I bet God is seeing black kids. He's like, oh my God, my children can be outside as long as you want. You see white people outside because they already got 45 minutes. Hurry the fuck up.
Black people, just get over it. Like, slavery was a long time ago. Alright? Why can't they just move on? Well, this is sort of precious coming from people who set off fireworks every July 4th. Because that's some old shit too, right? Like Independence Day, that didn't happen last week, right? We didn't break away from the British last Thursday. That's some old shit. But we're still celebrating that. So when it's stuff that makes us feel good, we love it. When it's stuff that makes us feel better than others, superior, like we're the greatest people in the greatest country ever struck off in the forehead of God Almighty, oh, we'll remember that forever. We just don't like the stuff that brings us up a little short, makes us look a little less than superior, maybe not quite as good as we'd like to believe. If you don't understand why the past affects the present, particularly around issues like enslavement, putting aside the inheritance of wealth and the lack thereof, part of which is certainly an explanation for why currently the median white wealth is 15 times the median African-American wealth and 11 to 12 times the median Latino wealth. Certainly that has something to do with history, who had access to resources and who didn't. But putting aside that, let's just understand something. The only reason Donald Trump is president right now is because of a little thing called the Electoral College, which was put in place by folks. See, we got this revisionist history that we've been spinning for the last couple of months about the Electoral College. Oh, you know, it was put in there to prevent tyranny. For real, you think? Do you really think that? Because I don't think that. Right? That might have been one of the things that folks were concerned about, but it was also put in because folks like the folks in Virginia, in the bigger slaveholding states, right, didn't want direct democracy or anything even remotely like it because it would have hurt them, because so much of their population was not enfranchised, right? So much of their population in some areas, 40% or over half of the people in some of those slaveholding states were what? Disenfranchised, counted as 3/5 of a human being, not considered people. And if you had anything remotely resembling direct democracy, those states would have been harmed by that. So in fact, the Electoral College was in part a compromise with slaveholding states, states who were dependent upon enslavement as a mechanism of economic development so as to improve their political position vis-a-vis non-slaveholding states. So if you don't understand how slavery, because this is the point, right? Even if you don't think racism was key to Donald Trump's own campaign, which, suggests to me that you might have been asleep for the last several months, even if you believe that, understand that racism in the 1700s, white supremacy embedded in the structure of the country at the founding of the country is most definitely implicated in his election, because without the obeisance to the electoral college, without that compromise, we know he would not be president right now. So that is why we have to think about the past, and that is why the past affects the present. See?